Hey, what's up, Market Moose? Mark from the Moose on the Loose. I hope you're doing well on this Thursday. Thursday is a big one. Later today on the YouTube channel, I will publish my reviews for Canadian banks' earnings. So all the big six plus a few smaller ones. It's going to be super interesting because we have like all the banks reporting over the past 3 days, 3 of them this very morning. So that's why I'm a little bit late on the video. So pardon myself. And this morning on the Moose, the big question, should you sell your banks to buy BANK.TO? So what's BANK.TO? It's a covered call ETF, evolved Canadian bank and life insurance company yield index. So the BANK.TO was created in February of 2022, showing a total return up by 60% since inception. So that's pretty good. So that's the capital appreciation plus the distribution. And it's not a dividend. Do not make that mistakes of calling it a dividend. It is a distribution. There's a big difference here. And the distribution yield is actually 14%. So that's a lot, but it's already included in the 60% total return. So that's how it is. Before we do a deep dive on it and we see like if it's a good product, if you should actually sell your banks, it's super important to understand what BANK.TO is. So if you go on their website, you're going to get all that information, and it's important to start with that information, the strategy, the MERs, the funds, what's inside the holdings as well, before you start looking at the returns or at the yield saying, hey, I'm going to get 14% every year, I can retire on that, and life's going to be good. So let's go back to what BANK.TO is. So leverage covered call ETF. So on one part, it's leverage up to 25%, which is an amplifier. So when you use leverage, this means that you borrow money to invest. If you're doing well, you're doing better. If you're doing bad, you're doing worse. You have to consider this already. There's an aspect of volatility and fluctuation there. Then it's writing covered calls on only 33% of the portfolio, which is actually a good thing because a classic covered call ETF before would typically write 100% of the portfolio. So which means that you cap your upside at all time. So quick summary for covered call ETF, if you have never used them, you have a stock that trades at $100. You write a covered call at 110. The stock goes to 125. You are forced to sell it at 110. And the other person is getting the full upside. Even worse, the stock goes from $100 to 75. You write a covered call at $85. The stock recovers back to 100. Well, you're stuck by selling it at 85. You do not participate in the full recovery. So when you're thinking, oh, when a stock goes down, I don't mind because I'm going to recover. Well, your recovery is capped as well in exchange of a higher distribution. So we'll see if it makes sense or not. So 14% yield, 0.6% management fee. So not super high, but I mean, it's something to consider as well, because every time that you put $1 in, there's 6 cents that goes to not 6 cents, but 0.6 cents that goes to management. All right, so what's inside BANK.TO? So you have almost 50% of life insurance company. So actually it's 48.72. So let's say 50% into Power Corp, Manulife, Great-West Life, and Sun Life. So the big guys, right? And then you have the rest of the 50% invested in the big six. So Scotiabank, CIBC, TD, Royal Bank, BMO, and National Bank. So you could actually recreate this index quite easily by just buying ZEB, which is a bank ETF covering the 6 big banks by BMO, at 0.28% fee, and then add Power Corp, Great-West Life, Manulife, and Sun Life as like individual stocks. And then you would recreate BANK.TO without the leverage, without the writing covered calls. So now I told you at the beginning of this show that that BANK.TO since inception generated a total return of 60%. Is it good? Is it bad? I mean, of course, 60% since 2022 sounds like a good deal already. So definitely you're not on the losing side here. It has performed well, but I mean, I'm not really surprised because we have a very robust lineup. You have like 6 banks, 4 life insurance companies. Power Corp is kind of like a more of an asset manager conglomerate, but it generates a lot of its revenue from its stake into Great-West Life. So a little bit of overlap. So you can call it life insurance company if you want. So in comparison, how about we would have invested in ZEB, for example? So just BMO 6 banks ETF. So this one for the same period was up 55.98. So let's say 56% instead of 60. So pretty close, only 4% lag behind because they did not invest in life insurance companies. The ZEB ETF has a management fee of 0.28, so a little bit cheaper, but still underperforming because it's not open to life insurance companies. If we would have bought the covered call ETF only on banks, ZWB, then you would have been quite disappointed because this one is up 32.67, so let's say 33. So now we have bank at 60, we have ZEB at 56, and then we have the covered call ETF for banks at 33. So we're going to discard this one right away. But what if you would have bought ZEB plus the 4 life insurance companies? So Power Corp up 109% during that time, including the dividend, not distribution this time because it's a stock. Manlife up 126%. That's even better, right? Sun Life up 35%, and then Great-West Life up 97%. So if you take the average of the 4, if you're equally weighted, the average Lifeco for that period is up 85% total return. So dividend plus capital appreciation. So going back to doing an half and half, 50% bank, 50% life insurance company, your total return would have been around 70%. So 60 on one side with the leverage and the covered call, or 70 even if you include the juicy distribution and all that. It's like all included. So it's 70 versus 60. So again, you're not on the losing side in the sense that you pay for convenience, right? But you have a lower total return. And if you have a lower total return, this means that you have a lower income. It's pure math. You cannot generate more. You cannot actually pay a higher distribution if your total return is weak. So right now, the 14% distribution yield works because the company, not the company, but the ETF generated a very solid return. So if you generate like 20% return a year, you distribute 14%, it's all good, right? It's all going to be working. Now, you are paying a fee for that and you are capping your upside, but if you had generated 70% total return, you could have generated more distribution. You would just be the boss. So it's less convenient because you have to sell shares, but it's pure math. And don't tell me that those shares are going to go down to 0. It's theoretically possible, but I made a calculation over and over. I did several shows of that. It's not going to happen as long as the asset is going up. If the asset's going down, I mean, you're all going to 0 anyway on one way or another. So it's not a point of argument. So just by buying ZEB plus 4 stocks, you would have gained 10% more total return over past like almost 3 years. That's kind of cool, right? That's kind of like a 2-3% up. I mean, more distribution for you. That would be great. So in conclusion, BANK.TO is not a super bad product, but you're just paying for convenience and you're leaving a lot of money on the table just for that convenience of receiving the 14% yield instead of simply replicating the exact same strategy without the leverage, so without a little bit of risk, without covering calls, so without capping your upside, and just selling shares whenever you need them. So it's not that complicated, and you would rapidly enhance your returns, but not only your returns, but your retirement income. If you want to learn a little bit more how to analyze stocks, I offer that to you inside my newsletter, 100% free. So you just have to subscribe to the thedividendguyblog.com/newsletter. So thedividendguyblog.com/newsletter, and I explain you mechanics. I give you like example of investment rules, buy rules, sell rules to manage your portfolio. So to go back to that question from one of my members asked, should I sell my banks to buy BANK.TO? I mean, if you want some banks and some life insurance companies, you can actually do that. Not that easy to find those companies. I mean, all the companies I name under that show, I mean, you probably know all of them anyways. So not that complicated. You can replicate BANK.TO and you're going to get a better return. But if you want to pay for conveniency and just getting the yield, not a bad pick. Just know that you could have made better with the exact same strategy. All right, Moose, that's enough for today. Tomorrow, we are talking about defined pension plan and the integration with CPP. Take good care, and you don't want to miss the next episode. Until then, don't forget to stay invested.